Jesus and the sun, the ancient solar myth behind Christianity? What if the most worshipped man in human history was wearing the face of a god far older than Christianity, itself the burning face of the sun? 2 billion people follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, yet whispers of a far older story have followed his name for centuries. Long before Bethlehem, ancient civilizations bowed to the sun-worshipping gods of light who died and rose again. Their temples faced the dawn. Their kings claimed the fire of heaven. Their myths spoke of radiant saviors descending into darkness, only to return in glory. This is the story of a controversial theory, the evidence behind it, and the deeper truth about why humanity has always looked to the sky for salvation. Think about that for a moment. Christianity is the largest religion the world has ever known. Its symbols hang in courtrooms and cathedrals, its calendar shapes the rhythm of nations, and its central figure has inspired more art, music, and devotion than perhaps any human being who ever lived. And yet, for generations, a quiet and unsettling question has followed all of it. The real controversy may not be whether Jesus existed at all. The real controversy may be why so many ancient religions separated by oceans, deserts, and thousands of years seem to tell strikingly similar stories, centuries before a child was ever born in Bethlehem. Now, let me be clear with you from the very beginning, because this matters. This video is not an attack on faith. It is not here to mock believers, and it is not here to flatter skeptics. What we are going to do together is something far more interesting. We are going to examine historical theories, comparative mythology, and ancient symbolism, with an open and critical mind honoring both those who kneel in prayer and those who question everything. Because whichever side you stand on, the story behind this theory is one of the most fascinating journeys in the history of human belief. Before we uncover one of the most controversial theories in religious history, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're fascinated by ancient civilizations, biblical history, comparative mythology, hidden symbolism, and the mysteries behind the world's greatest religions, you're in the right place. Every video is carefully researched using historical records, archaeological discoveries, and respected scholarly sources to separate evidence from speculation. Subscribe now and join us as we explore the forgotten stories, timeless symbols, and fascinating ideas that continue to shape our understanding of history and humanity. So what exactly are we dealing with here? The claim that Jesus is, in some sense, a sun god has fascinated researchers, skeptics, and historians for decades. On one side stand those who argue that Christianity quietly inherited its most sacred symbols from far older solar religions, that the halo, the December birth, the resurrection itself, all echo the ancient worship of the sun. On the other side stand scholars who insist these similarities are superficial, misunderstood, or simply invented by modern imagination. Both sides are passionate. Both sides claim the evidence, and somewhere between them lies a truth more subtle and more beautiful than either extreme. That is the journey ahead of us. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we will walk through 5 essential questions. First, what does the Jesus is a sun god theory actually claim? Not the internet version, but the real argument. Second, why have people, for centuries, compared Jesus with ancient solar deities like Horus, Mithras, and Sol Invictus? Third, are these similarities genuinely supported by history, or do they crumble under scrutiny? Fourth, where exactly does symbolism end and historical evidence begin, a line far blurrier than most of us assume? And finally, why does this debate still burn so brightly today, in an age of science and skepticism? But to understand why anyone would ever connect a humble Galilean teacher to the blazing sun, we cannot start in Jerusalem, or Rome, or even Bethlehem. We must travel much further back to a world without electricity, without certainty, without mercy. A world where the sun was not simply light in the sky, it was life itself. Imagine, for a moment, living thousands of years before electricity. Close your eyes and step into that world. When darkness falls, it falls completely. No streetlights, no lanterns glowing in distant windows, only the vast, breathing blackness of night. And every single morning, when the first golden edge of the sun breaks over the horizon, it does not simply mark a new day. It is a rescue, a resurrection, a promise kept. In that world, every harvest depended on the rising sun. Every seed buried in the cold earth waited for its warmth. Kings ruled by claiming their authority came from heaven itself, and the sun's slow journey across the sky determined calendars, seasons, festivals, and survival. A long winter was not an inconvenience. It could mean starvation. It could mean death. And so, when the light finally returned, growing stronger day by day after the darkest night of the year, it meant salvation in the most literal sense a human heart can understand. Now, travel with me across that ancient world, and you will find the same devotion burning everywhere. In Egypt, priests woke before dawn to greet the sunbark of Ra as it emerged victorious from the underworld, having battled the serpent of chaos through the night. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats rose like mountains of brick, stairways reaching toward the heavens where Shamash, the son of justice, watched over every oath and every judgment. In Persia, sacred fires were kept burning as living symbols of divine light that must never be allowed to die. In Greece, Helios drove his blazing chariot across the sky each day, while Apollo radiant, beautiful, terrible brought light, healing, and prophecy to mortals below. The Celts raised massive stone monuments, aligned with breathtaking precision, so that on the solstice, a single shaft of sunlight would pierce the darkness of an inner chamber. Across the ocean, Mesoamerican civilizations built entire pyramids to the sun and fed it with offerings, terrified that without their devotion, it might one day refuse to rise. And in India, the poets of the Vedas sang hymns to the dawn goddess, with a tenderness that still moves us 3,000 years later. These were not abstract ideas. These were beloved characters in humanity's oldest story. Ah, who died every evening in the west and was reborn every morning in the east. Horus, the falcon-eyed god of the sky, whose gaze was the sun itself. Mithras, born miraculously from solid rock, worshipped in candlelit underground temples by Roman soldiers who shared sacred meals in his name. And in the late Roman Empire, one figure rose above them all, Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, elevated by emperors as the supreme divine protector of Rome itself. And here is the question worth sitting with: why the sun? Why, across continents that never spoke to one another, did human beings keep reaching for the same symbol? The answer, when you feel it rather than analyze it, is almost heartbreakingly simple. The sun dies every single evening and resurrects every single morning. It weakens and fades through the autumn, sinking lower, growing dim, and then, each spring, it returns in glory. It gives life to the crops, sight to the eyes, warmth to the body, and order to time itself. Nothing else in all of human experience so perfectly embodies death, rebirth, and unfailing constancy. If you were searching for a face of the divine in the natural world, there was never really any competition. So picture it now. The Roman Empire at its height, a world absolutely saturated with solar devotion. Sol Invictus honored by emperors. Mithras worshipped in hidden sanctuaries from Britain to Syria. Temples, coins, festivals, and prayers all turned toward the light. And into this world, this sun-soaked, light-worshipping world, a new faith was about to be born. A faith carrying a message that would have sounded strangely familiar to ancient ears. A light shining in the darkness, a light the darkness could not overcome. And as this new faith spread across the Roman world, observant eyes began to notice something strange: echoes of the old solar gods, hiding quietly in the imagery of the new one. And those echoes, once noticed, could never quite be unseen. At first, the observations were scattered: a Roman here, a scholar there, quietly wondering at the resemblance. But as the centuries passed, as Enlightenment thinkers began laying the world's religions side by side, And as modern writers combed through ancient texts with fresh and sometimes reckless eyes, the similarities became impossible to ignore. They accumulated, they gathered weight, and they began to form questions haunting questions that still refuse to go away. Why, for instance, is December 25 associated with the birth of Jesus? The Gospels never give a date. Yet Christmas falls just days after the winter solstice, very moment when the ancient world celebrated the rebirth of the sun, when the light stopped dying and began at last to return. Coincidence? Convenience? Or something deeper? Why does Jesus carry so many titles woven from light? The light of the world, the morning star, the sun of righteousness, rising with healing in its wings. Language that would have felt instantly, intimately familiar to anyone raised beneath the temples of Sol or Ra. Why do the halos in Christian art, those radiant circles crowning the heads of Christ, and the saints look so strikingly like the solar discs that hovered above the heads of Egyptian gods, or the rayed crowns worn by Helios and Sol Invictus on Roman coins? Why are so many ancient churches aligned with the sunrise, their altars facing east, so that the first light of morning pours down the nave like a blessing? And why, across cultures that never met from Egypt to Persia, from Greece to distant Mesoamericado, the great myths keep circling the same themes? A divine figure who dies, descends into darkness, and rises again just as the sun does every night and every winter. One question alone might be dismissed, but together, they crystallized into one of the most controversial theories in the history of religion. The idea that Christianity did not emerge in isolation, but absorbed knowingly or not the symbols, rhythms, and imagery of the ancient solar faiths that came before it. And in our own era, that theory exploded. Books championed it, documentaries dramatized it, and the internet with its appetite for the shocking and the shareable spread it, faster than any temple cult ever spread its gospel. But here is where our story finds its true antagonist, and it may not be who you expect. It is not the church. It is not the skeptics. It is not any single person or institution at all. The real enemy in this story is a thick, seductive fog of oversimplified claims, half-remembered facts, and viral videos that flatten centuries of complex history into 60 confident seconds. It is misinformation that mutates as it travels. It is religious polarization, which turns an honest historical question into a weapon. And perhaps most dangerous of all, it is confirmation bias working quietly on every side. The skeptic who wants Christianity to be a copy will find borrowing in every halo and every date. The believer who needs every parallel to be meaningless will wave away even the evidence that deserves a second look. Both walk into the same fog. Both come out more certain and less informed. So let us be honest with each other about what this conflict truly is. It is not faith versus skepticism. It never was. Devout historians and secular scholars often stand on the same side of this question, while careless voices from both camps stand together on the other. The real battle, the one worth fighting, is between evidence and assumption, between what we can actually demonstrate and what we merely want to be true. And that is the narrow path we are going to walk together now, holding curiosity in one hand and rigor in the other. Because these questions deserve better than slogans. They deserve daylight. So let us do what few sensational headlines ever dare to place the strongest claims of this theory under the light, one by one, and see which of them survive. Begin with the words themselves. In the Gospel of John, Jesus declares, "I am the light of the world." The prophet Malachi speaks of a sun of righteousness, rising with healing in its wings, a verse early Christians read as a portrait of Christ. The resurrection happens at dawn, as the first light breaks over an empty tomb. And the day Christians chose for worship was not the Sabbath of their Jewish roots, but Sunday literally, the day of the sun. Taken together, these threads seem to weave an undeniable pattern. Light, dawn, the sun's own day. The theory's defenders ask a fair question. Is this really coincidence? Then comes the calendar. December 25 sits just after the winter solstice, the moment the dying sun is reborn and the days begin to lengthen. In Rome, that very date marked the festival of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. And here is the honest truth. The Gospels never give a birth date. Not a season, not a month, nothing. The December date emerged centuries later, and scholars still genuinely disagree about why. Some argue the Church absorbed the pagan festival, baptizing a beloved holiday. Others point to an older Christian calculation, tied to the date of the crucifixion, that arrived at December 25 through entirely internal logic. Both positions have serious defenders. The certainty you hear online either side is not the certainty of the historians. Now the deeper waters. Mithras, the mysterious god of Roman soldiers, worshipped in underground temples associated with the sun. Did Christianity borrow from his cult? There are real overlaps, shared meals, initiation, imagery of light conquering darkness. But there are also profound differences, and much of Mithraism remains genuinely unknown even to specialists. Then the zodiac readings, 12 disciples as 12 constellations, Jesus as the sun moving through the heavens, the cross reinterpreted as the crossing point of celestial paths, resurrection as the seasonal renewal every farmer once prayed for. As poetry, these readings are haunting. As history, they demand evidence, and this is where the trial turns. Because when mainstream scholarship takes the stand, the verdict is layered. Some parallels are real, but late and artistic. The halo does echo the solar disk, but it entered Christian art centuries after Christ, borrowed from the visual vocabulary of the empire. Churches were aligned toward the sunrise, but as symbolism, not secret sun worship. The December date does sit in a solar context, whatever its origin. These connections exist. They matter. Yet other claims simply collapse under examination. The viral assertions that Horus was born of a virgin on December 25, that Mithras had 12 disciples, that these older gods were crucified and rose on the third day. Search the ancient sources, and you will not find them. Not in the Egyptian texts, not in the Mithraic reliefs. These claims were largely manufactured in the 19th century by speculative writers, then amplified by modern films and internet lists, until repetition began to feel like proof. It is one of the strangest ironies of this whole debate, a theory about ancient borrowing that itself borrowed heavily from modern invention. And here, if you have stayed with me this far, is the moment everything comes into focus. The truth is not what the sensational documentaries promised. It is not what the defensive dismissals promised either. Christianity was born inside a world drenched in sunlight and sun worship. It grew up speaking the visual language of that world: light and darkness, dawn and rebirth, because that was the language every human heart already understood. But speaking the language of the sun is not the same as being the sun. A faith that used solar imagery is not automatically a solar myth in disguise. The evidence supports influence, absorption, shared symbolism. It does not support the claim that Jesus is simply Ra or Mithras wearing a new name. And yet notice what the evidence also refuses to do. It refuses to give us a clean, comfortable verdict. The trial ends not with a gavel, but with an open question still hanging in the air. And perhaps that is exactly why, centuries later, this debate refuses to die. Walk into any university today, and you will find the debate still breathing. Comparative religion departments still trace the threads between Christianity and the older faiths that surrounded its birth. Biblical scholars still argue over Sol Invictus and December dates in careful footnoted journals. And far beyond the lecture halls, the question has taken on a life of its own in best-selling books that promise hidden truths, in documentaries with dramatic music and darkened reenactments, in YouTube comment sections where strangers argue past midnight about Horus and Halos. Modern spirituality movements have embraced the solar reading as a kind of liberation, a way of reclaiming something ancient and universal. And ordinary people who grew up in pews who never questioned a single carol or candle now, find themselves typing quiet questions into search bars late at night, wondering where their own traditions truly came from. So the question must be asked plainly and allowed to linger. Are these solar symbols genuine historical connections, real threads of inheritance running from the temples of Egypt to the churches of Europe? Or are we, the modern audience, seeing patterns where none were originally intended, a kind of religious pareidolia, the same instinct that finds faces in clouds, now finding sun gods in scripture, written across 20 centuries of history? Perhaps the answer lies not in the evidence alone, but in why this theory became so magnetic in the first place. Consider what we know about ourselves. Humanity creates similar symbols across cultures, not because civilizations copy one another, but because we share the same sky, the same fears, the same longings. The sun is the one god every civilization discovered independently, because it is the one power no civilization could live without. From the Nile to the Andes, people who never met told the same essential story, because they watched the same light die each evening and return each dawn. And religious traditions genuinely do borrow. They absorb the imagery of the cultures they grow within, the way a river carries the color of the lands it flows through. Over centuries, symbols drift and blend until their origins blur, until no one can say for certain where one tradition ends and another begins. And into that beautiful, tangled complexity steps, modern media does not reward complexity at all. It rewards the shocking headline, the simple story, the claim that fits in a single breath. Jesus was a sun god. The truth was always messier, and messier truths travel more slowly. But here, in the quiet, after all the arguments, something deeper comes into view. Perhaps the most fascinating question was never whether Jesus was a sun god. Perhaps the real question is why the sun has always been humanity's most enduring symbol of hope, renewal, and divine presence. Why the builders of Giza aligned their pyramids with its rising. Why the artisans of Chartres spent lifetimes crafting stained glass, whose only purpose was to catch its light and turn it into glory. Why, across every ocean and every age, when human beings tried to describe the sacred, they reached almost helplessly for the same word: light. Because when you look honestly at the evidence, what it reveals is not a conspiracy. There is no hidden council of priests smuggling Ra into the Gospels, no secret that was buried and must now be exposed. What the evidence reveals is something far more moving. It is a portrait of the human heart itself. Every culture, in every century, standing in the cold dark of winter, watching the light fade, and refusing to believe the darkness would win. Every people telling stories of the light's return as Ra, sailing through the underworld, as Mithras born from stone, as a child born in a manger while the world held its breath. Different names, different theologies, the same ancient hope, rising with the same ancient sun. That is not evidence of fraud. That is evidence of what we have always needed, and what we have always found ways to say. And once you learn to see that light, you begin to notice it everywhere still, glowing quietly in the world we live in today. Walk into almost any cathedral in Europe and look up. Above the altar, a rose window blooms like a captured sunrise, scattering golden light across stone floors worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims. Look at the paintings of the saints and see the halos circling their heads, luminous discs of gold, glowing exactly as the sun-crowned gods of Egypt and Rome once glowed. Watch a priest lift a monstrance shaped like a radiant sunburst, its rays fanning outward from the sacred center. None of this is hidden. It has been shining in plain sight all along, one of the oldest visual languages humanity has ever created, and we still speak it fluently, whether we realize it or not. And it does not stop at the church doors. Solar imagery blazes across national flags and crowns the tops of monuments in the world's great capitals. It appears in corporate logos designed to make us feel warmth and trust, in the golden light that filmmakers pour over their most hopeful scenes. in the poetry we write about dawn, and the songs we sing about morning. Modern spiritual movements greet the sunrise just as ancient priests once did on the banks of the Nile. Thousands of years after the first temple was aligned to the solstice, we are still turning our faces toward the light still, reaching for the same symbol our ancestors reached for when words were not enough. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson this whole journey has to offer. Because in the end, the greatest legacy of this debate is not proving or disproving a theory. It is not a verdict handed down about December dates or borrowed halos. It is something quieter and far more valuable. The understanding of how religions, myths, and symbols actually live. They travel, they borrow, they transform. An image born beside the Nile finds new meaning in Rome, and new meaning again in a gospel written by people who had never seen Egypt. Meaning flows across civilizations like water, taking the shape of every vessel it fills in. Yet somehow it never stops being water. To see that clearly is not to lose your faith or to win an argument. It is to gain something rarer, a deeper reverence for the long, unbroken conversation between humanity and the sacred. So let me leave you with this. Whether you look at these parallels and see divine truth foreshadowed in the ancient world, or ancient borrowing woven into a new faith, or simply the shared poetry of the human soul, writing the same longing in different alphabets on thing, remains beautifully, stubbornly true. The sun still rises every morning. It rises now as it rose over the temples of Egypt, over the legions of Rome, over the quiet hills of Bethlehem. It rose on the day you were born, and it will rise on mornings you will never see. And every single sunrise carries the same quiet promise our ancestors clung to through every long winter night. That darkness never has the final word. Never has, never will. Whatever name you give to that promise, Ra, Sol Invictus, or the light of the world, the hope itself belongs to all of us. It always has. And now I want to hear from you. After everything we have explored together, what do you truly think? Do the similarities between Jesus and the ancient solar deities reveal a shared symbolic language written across civilization, a common grammar of light that humanity has always spoken? Or are they largely coincidental interpretations, patterns we find because we are searching for them? There is no wrong answer here, only an honest one. Share your perspective in the comments below, because conversations like this are exactly why this channel exists. And if you enjoyed this journey, if you love exploring ancient civilizations, comparative religion, hidden symbolism, mythology, and history's greatest unsolved mysterious, then do me one small favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey into the forgotten past. Until then, my friend, keep asking questions, keep looking closer, and tomorrow morning, when the light returns and spills across your window, take just one moment to watch it rise, because you will be witnessing the oldest story humanity has ever told, still being written in fire across the sky.